Thanks for staying with us here on TVC Breakfast. Now, the World Health Organization, in one of its reports, says 15 million persons worldwide suffer a stroke annually. Of these, 5 million die and another 5 million are left permanently disabled, placing a burden on family and community. The same report states that for every 10 people who die of stroke, 4 could have been saved if their blood pressure had been regulated. Among those aged under 65, 2/5 of deaths from stroke are linked to smoking. A stroke is a life-threatening condition that occurs when part of the brain doesn't have enough blood flow. Blood brings oxygen and nutrients to brain cells, and if blood does not flow to a part of the brain, cells that do not receive enough oxygen suffer and eventually die. Other risk factors include age, family, history, living conditions, and anxiety, among others. Let's talk this through by speaking in the studio with a guest who is in the studio with us, Oluwadamilare Abraham. He's a doctor, a neurophysiotherapist, lead physiotherapist, Fine Touch Physiotherapy Clinic, Ikorodu. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Abraham.
Thank you so much. Good morning, sir.
Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
So it's quite interesting to talk about this topic because it's something that is age-long, really, and it affects those who are, the aged, also affects people that are even younger, and that's even the most worrisome thing. But help us understand the reason why we have stroke in the first place. Is it due to people's lifestyle? Is it hereditary? Is it just something that is inflicted by God knows what, if you know what I mean?
I do. Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity. First, I want to crave the indulgence of the audience to please permit me not to be medical. Yes, so that
you have to be simplistic as much as you can.
The message can be passed across to the
heart.
Exactly. Okay, you mentioned in the 3 causes you mentioned, of course, are the causes. It's hereditary. It's due to some anomalies in the medical configuration of the body.
That's right.
And of course, the so-called spiritual, God knows what. I don't know that anyway. But
you don't want to admit that it can be caused by spiritual factors and other things.
Oh, well, the African part of me, we want to, but medically, no literature.
Okay, so let's focus on what we can deal with. Really.
Exactly. Okay, so the causes. Broadly, there are many causes, really, or risk factors that contribute to stroke. But essentially, first, stroke is just, and I must emphasize this for the purpose of the general audience or public. Stroke is majorly caused, is an injury to the brain. Let's get that first.
Okay.
And how is that? It's when there's blockage to the blood supply, blood flow to the brain. Of course, stroke might result, and it can be ischemic, it can be hemorrhagic, and it can be TIA, the one we call the younger brother of stroke. It's just a flash of stroke, and the person recovers so fast. So,
sorry, Kemi, if you want to break it down, ischemic,
yes,
hemorrhagic,
okay,
and then
TIA.
Oh,
transient ischemic attack.
All right.
Okay. The transient ischemic attack is, like I said, it's like a flash of stroke. It happens, the person suffers paralysis for, say, 2-3 hours, and after a while, things find its way. So it's a little blockage, and the blood supply just find its way back. So the person feels okay after 2-3 hours, and it appears as though nothing happened. But the second one, the ischemic, that, of course, can be in 2 parts. Embolic or thrombotic, or whichever way it is just a clot, a blood clot. It can be formed in any part of the body. It can be closer to the brain. So once it's occlude, it blocks the blood flow to the brain. So for that little moment that the brain is short of oxygen, then there's no signal to that part of the body. It could be the left, it could be the right. That is ischemic. But hemorrhagic, of course, mostly is peculiar to the aged, because that is due to what we call aneurysm. That is the ballowing of the blood vessel. If the blood vessel is getting inelastic, a very good way I used to explain that is having a pure water sachet, and you use a part of your finger to just so it extend making it so light as it can burst at no time. So that's hemorrhagic. So when that happens, that's hemorrhagic stroke, and it's of course deadly.
Right. And so these three are regular, stroke, or is there a particular one that we need to be mindful of? Or if you're not careful, all three, you could be at risk of any of the three?
Very true. You could be at risk of any of the three.
All right. And then, so you say it is hereditary. And so for people like that, I want you to also try to break that down, and what people with, a relative, a parent, or a loved one who is, suffering or being managed for stroke, what such persons, the family members need to be wary of.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Lifestyle, like you mentioned in the introductory part of it. So, if, the grandmother, the great-grandmother, a part of the body, it's stroke. So once you are aware that especially one of the risk factors, there are two major broad risk factors of stroke, modifiable risk factors and non-modifiable risk factors. Modifiable risk factors are things you have control over. You can make adjustments, but for example, diets, lifestyle, management of stress and all, these are modifiable. But non-modifiable risk factors are things you really don't have control over, like gender, like race, age, those are bound to. So for the modifiable risk factors like blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, these are things that we come by due to consumption, the lifestyle we live. So if you are aware that, in my family, so person had it, this had it, then that's a red flag for you to know that I must be mindful of the way I live my life, things I eat, what I do. Like I used to advise patients, it is important you get the BP monitor. You see, most times in this part of the world, when you mention it to some people, they think, why should I be monitoring my BP? It's not a death sentence. And like I used to enlighten them, it is better you are aware of what your BP reads. So when you know it's shooting up, you can, of course, modify how you live, things you do, stress management. I'm getting too much of it. If it is too low, you know what to do to really boost it. So it is always advisable in every family, have this BP monitor and put that in check. Also, your cholesterol, go to the lab once in 2-3 months, check what is my cholesterol level. These are things that contribute, and of course your diabetic status as well. Know your sugar level and know how to manage this. These are modifiable risk factors.
Interesting stuff. So you've mentioned some things, for instance, hypertension and diabetes, and they're quite increasingly prevalent in Nigeria. So how significant would you consider these two conditions, contributing, the factors to stroke? Are we beginning to see a rise in this, especially in the younger generation?
Very well, very well. For the purpose of this interview, I should mention about a month ago, I got a call from a 41-year-old, and he was aware of being a BP patient, but he was negligent in keeping up with his drugs. And just all of a sudden, stroke. Stroke. Yes. And
stroke.
Yes.
I love that expression.
Okay, so, and of course, he's picking up now, doing well, but what you can prevent, why should you allow it to happen? So there is increase or rise in stroke due to BP, high BP, that's hypertension, and of course diabetics.
So how do you, if you say, okay, I want to manage diabetes, the kind of food that people eat, daily, for instance, someone who is eating yam in the morning, eats amala in the afternoon, or pottage in the afternoon, and then taking amala, for instance, in the evening, still eating the same class of food, and not really having balanced diet and all of that, and also taking, soft drink on the sidelines and all of that. Hypertension, the worrying economic trends and all of that, and all of the impacts, the things that you probably may not be able to control. How do you think people can survive this, especially with these prevailing circumstances?
Okay, it's very simple. Worry will only keep you busy. It won't take you anywhere. So there are certain things, like I mentioned, we don't have control over. If you keep worrying about the economic situation of the country, to what end and what will it profit? Instead, you are inflicting injury to yourself. So you should try as much as possible to just take it off your mind, live the day as it comes. You know, just if you can survive at least, just let that be. And for those who just recklessly eat or consume anything, this is, of course, a sign and, of course, a warning to you that you don't just live your life anyhow. The body asks for whatever you feed it with eventually after a while. So you are a custodian of your body, and so you should be mindful of things you consume. If you know your diet is full of carbohydrates, I mean, why? You are aware there's protein, there's vitamins, why not try as much as possible to get this? I was still mentioning to a colleague yesterday that, I'm sorry to say, the poor, actually, the feeding habit still reflects. So poverty is not necessarily lack of money most times. This time we are talking about to live healthy, to feed healthy, with just minimum amounts, you can actually live fine. Egg, just an egg a day, it's balanced diet. But how many people would you advise to take that and they will keep to eat that? Oh, that's that. But until you have maintenance carbohydrates on you, exactly. That's why. So it's just about being conscious and aware. Be very intentional about your consumption, food consumption.
And then, you know, stroke. So if it does happen, I'm particularly interested about that because it's believed that stroke is to be managed for life. But, you know, the little research we did, you know, reflects that there is some form of recovery. I don't know, you are the expert, so help us to understand what chances of recovery and, you know, adjusting or returning to normal lives are.
Okay. That's dependent on the severity of the stroke. And that is why when it happens, neurologists will ask or request for MRI. And the same thing, physiotherapists, they want to see what is the severity, what is the extent of the stroke. And there are various types of it, really. And there is anterior, cerebral, there is posterior, there is middle. So depending on what it is, you can actually recover fully as though nothing has happened. And for there are some, there will be residual deformity you just have to live by and cope with. And it is noteworthy to mention here too that a very renowned football manager, renowned in England, once suffered hemorrhagic stroke. The person of Sir Alex Ferguson. How many people will be aware he had it? Immediately he was rushed to the theater, this shunts and all. And if you see the man, he still come to the pitch to watch football and is perfectly fine, so to say. So it depends on the severity of the stroke. That is what we tell whether there will be full recovery for you or there will be some residual deformity.
And then you've also said that the first few hours, I take it that's what you're saying, that the first few hours after you experience those symptoms matter a lot.
Yes, very well, it matters. The first 3-4 hours of when stroke happens, the line of management at that instance determines your recovery rates.
So would you advise rushing to the hospital, or are there like basic tips that one can use to help the person in need?
Oh, well, I don't want to speak ill of our hospitals in Nigeria, really. But if you are so sure of the hospital you want to take the person to, it's advisable in the space of 3-4 hours, get the person to the hospital. There's this particular drug they give, TPA, tissue plasminogen activator.
That's right.
Once it is administered, of course, the person has higher chances of recovering very beautifully well. But if you dilly-dally, you waste time and all, of course, you are equally prolonging the recovery journey. That's it.
Interesting stuff. So that speaks to awareness and education, which one of it that we're actually talking about. Right. I do not know how much understanding we have, how much knowledge we have about stroke. Rather than everything being termed as spiritual, some of them are actually due to our own, habits and things that we do. Talking about awareness and the kind of technology that we've adopted in this part of the world to be able to manage this situation when it happens. Because I've had some doctors who had come on this show sometime in the past saying that we do not have the wherewithal to treat stroke patients the way they should be treated. We do not have the knowledge and then the tech to also use in administering this. And someone is trying to find out, back room, that what about the role of exercise? Does it help? How about medicine? Alternative medicine, do they help? Very quickly.
Okay, exercise, beautifully. It works perfectly well. And that's my area of specialization, really. And by the grace of God, I've had instances to manage patients and no residual deformity. Perfectly fine. And there are a few of them.
Not rigorous exercise, though.
No, not rigorous exercise. Exercises are individualized. They are specific based on the need of individual patients.
So not the weightlifting, six-pack.
Not at all, not at all. And that is where professionalism comes to play. When I come in contact with patients, I tell them, Jim, this is quite different from the exercises I will prescribe to you. Because to me, as a physiotherapist, exercises are drugs. They are medicine for me. So I wouldn't want to abuse it in any way. Neither will I prescribe what will be injurious to you. So exercises work very well and beautifully well in stroke management. And they recover
as a preventive mechanism, how would you recommend exercising?
As a preventive mechanism, well, if the person knows his or her status as being diabetic and being hypertensive, if you consult with a professional and certified physiotherapist, there are certain protocols and there are certain exercises that will be prescribed depending on your need that you can engage in that would definitely not necessarily land you to having stroke. So that meets with a certified physiotherapist. Okay. Tell you that.
So you've actually not spoken to the tech thing, the technology we've actually adopted in treating this
management of stroke. Thank you very much. That's actually important. And I must equally state here that the knowledge is there. Though so many of our practitioners are leaving. We are experiencing the exodus of practitioners out of the country now. But a few of us who are still here, the knowledge is there, no doubt. For the tech, well, I will agree. However, because of where we are made to improvise a whole lot. And with the improvisation, we still achieve quite a number of things. For me, I engage more in itinerary physiotherapy. And so when I get to your house or to your office, even as I am here, I'm already thinking, okay, what can this be? It will interest you to know that this table alone can serve as your treatment protocol. And I will get maximum outcome or results from it. So that's the intuitiveness that's our environment has endowed on us. That we just have to get this. And I'm getting results, I must say.
Indeed. And so, as an overview, what nuggets have you, can you share with us, in your experience treating, stroke patients? What thoughts go through your mind? We're in Nigeria, they say, is it African Americans are more at risk and all of that. But, what has, your job as a physiotherapist, taught you beyond what you've already shared with us?
Okay. Nuggets. I need to drop this here for people to really consider it and, of course, act on it. And it is, we should come off this spirituality to everything that happens to us.
That's right.
Not once, not twice, not three times I've had cases of patients and not illiterate, enlightened, well-read. They've traveled far and near, and the best they can think of when stroke happened is to go to one man somewhere, and they paid huge sum of money. Not just that, and the man was using whip, cane every morning to beat
chase
that
out
it is
the
stroke patient.
Yes,
Yes,
a stroke patient to chase out the spirits, so to say. The man, after 2 days of experiencing that, with the money, with everything, he just left everything and left. Of course, it was after then I had contact with him. And so, like I said at first, stroke is medical. And of course, it can be well managed medically. It's not, and come to think of it, I mentioned it has to do with the brain. And so, Another case of some patients is you get to them when managing them, you see incisions. They call one man or so, they say black blood somewhere in part of the world. And I say, where is the black blood? What is this? This is brain. It's not. Why are you? How sure are you of the sterility of the blade or whatever even used for you, not inflicting another whatever? So the incision, what benefit? What will it do to you? The exercises I'm recommending, what I am doing, my protocols, is targeting at the brain, focusing at the brain, because it's brain issue. It's not physical. In the actual sense, I don't want to delve into the medical or the pathophysiology of it. It is not the hand that is faulty. It is not the leg, really. It is the brain. It's signal. So most of my inputs, my exercises are targeted towards the brain, rewiring the brain, exactly.
Very quickly, because we have just less than a minute to go. You asked about the, because treatment for stroke has evolved significantly in terms of, traditional medicine and all of that. You said one baba somewhere, but not necessarily one baba somewhere. Are there some trado medicine practices that actually help? Looking at the kind of creation we have in this part of the world.
Okay, well, on that, none that I know of. So I will not really say much about it. The best I know of is what is medically and literally back up with. Exactly.
Right.
That's it.
A neurophysiotherapist and lead physiotherapist at Fine Touch Physiotherapy Clinic, Oluwadamilare Abraham. Thank you so much for your keenness of insight on this.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you so much.